works. Hi, everyone. Richard Carlton here, creator of FMTrain.tv, where every day, even when I'm not here, we are doing great FileMaker training. I'm going to minimize this briefly here. We're going to talk about the upcoming broadcast schedule. We were calling a bit of an audible, so everyone understands what's going on this. So Monday and part of Tuesday is going to be, Margaret should be putting that on here. We're going to be covering script triggers, right? Script triggers is not a one-day conversation. Margaret kind of jammed it in here on one day, but it doesn't really fit on one day. So we're going to be doing script triggers on Monday and Tuesday. Touching base with Kyle Williams on an update to his product. We'll spend about 10-15 minutes with him on that. The notifications, transient notifications. Wednesday we'll be integrating FileMaker MBS database with features with a database. I'm not entirely sure what that's all about. That should be exciting. Thursday next week, tentatively, is another Claris quarter day. Theoretically, I know what it is, but Claris has been a lot of staff going out on medical leave, not medical leave, but medical. I mean, they're going on vacation, various things like that. So just people moving around. So whatever we think we have scheduled sometimes changes. Regardless, we will be having a lot of fun with that. Sauce Friday. I think that was for Jess and some other people who somehow in their world of learning about FileMaker somehow missed that part of the conversation. And so a lot of the script triggers on Mondays the same way. A lot of people know a lot about the FileMaker platform, but they have these little silos, like little vertical slices of where their knowledge doesn't extend into. And so my job is to help educate people. A lot of times along the way, you educate me. A lot of times, like even earlier this week on Tuesday, we were demoing this record level. Remember the record level conversation? And if you did a manual find, it would auto omit those people, right? Auto omit the records you couldn't see, not the people, but we were doing a contacts database and we were trying to omit certain people. But yeah, and I asked one of my senior engineers, they said that's absolutely a behavior change that we didn't know about. I'm like, okay, well, there are little subtle things that happen in the background with the Claris FileMaker platform. So we together are discovering some of these for the first time with all of you. Hopefully, though, the net positive is that you learned something you didn't know before. Oh, as a reminder, if you want to support the channel at FMTrain.tv, this is the live button. Of course, if you hit the bundles button, that helps ensure that I can pay for all of the people who are here helping with this. So if you have a bundle, we greatly appreciate it. If your bundle comes up for renewal, feel free to renew that. With that in mind, let's talk about today. So today's conversation, let me do the backstory on this. And of course, this brings up a really kind of interesting problem that people have that most FileMaker companies, they're smaller organizations, don't understand. And that is, if you decide you're going to do something, you have to kind of try to sustain it and keep it going. So like if we did this website called Try FileMaker, okay? It's a classic website that does a lot of really interesting things, but it's another initiative that we did. We worked on it really hard for a couple months, and then we kind of we haven't really revisited it. So is it as up to date as it should be? And so what we try to do at RCC, and probably if you're building free solutions for people in any way, pick the top items that you want to keep maintained. If you want to do a little one-off kind of project like this right here, that's great. That being said, to have a bunch of free stuff and to sustainably sustain it, where you keep it updated, keep it going, it's work. It's always work. And a lot of people don't understand that. So if you listen to my words, before you promise to build something for someone, after you build it and you walk away, what's the support look like? Who's going to support it if it breaks? Who's going to do updates to it at least once a year or something like that? So if we go to FM starting point, I'm going to give you folks a quick update on this. We are actively working on this. Actually, John Hogel's here with us, is actively working on this right now. I'm supposed to, I don't know. I'm going to have a review. I'm mostly focused on FM starting point, what we're calling 2024. We go by the year number here. So we're going to have the 2024 version. I'm focused on the light one, which is the one we use for training, all the complexity of it. We're trying to make sure maximum high performance of it, maximum speed, maximum capabilities, but being simple to understand. If you just can't open it up and immediately understand what's going on, I, Richard Carlton, have failed you. So that's my goal. It goes back to this video. In fact, we ought to do another topic on my favorite training videos for FileMaker developers. One of those videos is calling Making Apps That Suck Less, or Making an App That Doesn't Suck, okay? Making apps that don't suck. And it's such a classic, the trap of to fail in being a startup or building a new tool is to always determine that your product is great, we're great people, therefore our product's great, then how come we're not rich? And that is, a lot of people have been trapped by that, including some people in this conversation. So the trick is, what I always tell people is, assume your app sucks, and then endeavor to find a couple sharp edges on it and sand those off and make it suck less. And so we have a whole video on that. So Margaret, that would be a good topic. It's Richard's best inspirational slash guidance. It's not even really about tech per se, other than broad picture tech and usability, user interface versus user experience, usability slash user experience. Those are two sides of the same coin. All right. So real quick, if I go to FM starting point, I go to the marketplace here at the top. So it's starting point, marketplace top. We have a bunch of free things in here. There is an update coming for Wolfpack. I'm not part of that. Some of you keep emailing me like, hey, Richard, where's the Wolfpack? Make sure Christian doesn't suck. Make sure Christian's awesome, blah, 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 blah. I am not involved with that, okay? It's a free product, right? Which is another reason why I don't lose too much sleep about it. This is one of the ones that we keep up to date and maintain. Starting point, we keep it up, maintain it. The video training courses, we desperately try to keep them up to date to maintain them. This one here, I don't know what's up with this one. I haven't tried it lately. If anyone wants to try it, let me know if it works or not. So down here is one that is on the FileMaker and PayPal integration. We maintain this one because we use it. We actually eat our own dog food, even when maybe sometimes it's not the best answer. We use it anyway, because it gives you a great understanding and appreciation of what the product does or can't do. In my case, knowing where to stop with a customer and say, hey, you should use something else for this piece of it. So FileMaker and PayPal, if you come over here and click on this button, we hadn't updated this in a while. We went through a review. We got it. So the other day, so here's the deal with APIs. Here's a short version of this. This is also coming up on Tuesday with Kyle Williams a little bit on the transient notifications. If you have an API, RESTful API, or any sort of external reference where you're doing an insert from URL and you're somehow interacting with a service that's out somewhere on the internet. Oh, it's on the cloud. Dude, it comes through the internet, little plug in the back of your computer or Wi-Fi, whatever. That stuff can change. It frequently changes with banks and other institutions because they change their security. They're generally dialing up the levels of security because the bad guys get more proficient. It's why sending email out of any system on the planet, not just FileMaker, sucks. It should be easy, but it sucks. Why does it suck? Because bad guys do more bad guy thing, and the good guys have to raise the fence, keep adding. We started with a 3-foot fence. It's like at the airport, right? They started with a no fence at the airport. Anyone could walk on the airport. Then after 9/11, they're like, we need a fence. So in Sacramento, they put up a 4-foot fence. Now, if you are vertically challenged and or a 3-year-old child, that's pretty good for you. But the other day, about 8 months ago, I get this email. It's like, hey, Richard, what happened? And so someone went over the 4-foot fence, not secure at all. Some guy goes out there, and this was a flight training company I've been working with. They had kind of their own issues. So some guy was on YouTube, learned how to start a helicopter. Okay, start a helicopter. So climbs in this $8 million helicopter. There's like 5 or 6 of them online. Starts it up. Then he tries to do the Microsoft Flight Simulator thing, and he rolls it over right on the ramp, and the blades come off, explodes, and goes everywhere. Undeterred, he crawls in the next helicopter and repeats this like 2 or 3 times until he gets one off the ground. Then he crashes it again. And finally, after wrecking 2 or 3 of these things, he decides to call it a day before the cops show up. So this guy wipes out $15, $20 million of aircraft because of a 4-foot fence. So PayPal is doing the same thing. They're adding higher levels of fences. We get this call from PayPal. Most of your API providers are not going to call you to let you know they're changing their shit. One day it just doesn't work at all. Zero, it's just broke. But at PayPal, we do a lot of processing through PayPal for RCC, and they go, yeah, Richard, we want to talk to you. Mike, is this a spam call? Leave me alone. Click. They call me back. Richard, yes, we're selling you that you can keep using PayPal, but you got to fix your deprecated code. And I'm like, deprecation means when they quit using something they were using before, and it's security related. And I go, oh, call Hogle, because Hogle is the guy at RCC who had originally wired this up. So it affects RCC internally, but it also affects the free sample file we brought to you. So henceforth, I call John. John does this investigation. And so now we're going to thread John into the conversation. So that's the backstory. So John Hogle, are you there? So we're trying to prevent people from starting a helicopter and flipping it upside down in our PayPal account, right?
Yes, that is what we are attempting to do.
So tell me what did they deprecate? What is the impact? What is the version that we're on? Because clearly this video button here and this video button here don't work. I'm aware they don't work. Please don't email they don't work. I will get it fixed. By the time if you watch this video recording, we'll get them fixed. But Hogel, this link down here does work, right? Download it, right? And if they
Yes.
download it, what do they get and what did you do?
So if they download it, they will get our PayPal sample file, and I have that pulled up and available to show. If I'll share my screen now. So this is our PayPal sample file. You'll get it fresh out of the box. It will look largely like this. And you'll have these options to put in your PayPal credentials. We have ours mostly blocked out, just for security purposes, obviously. Um, and then you'll put in your business name, first and last name, and email. And then you have the option here to do a reminder for if you want to send out a reminder email for an invoice that you have sent out. And then the rest of this is pretty straightforward. Just contact who do you want to send it to, first name, last name, what's the email address, shipping information, and then what are you trying to invoice them for. So PayPal, originally they were using OAuth, which is a type of API identification that you give them a single code that they give you on their website, and it lasts forever, and you can use it as many times as you want.
That was that code that was up here, right? Somewhere up there? Yes?
That is, well, this has to do with the change. So originally it was just one code that you used, you got it one time, and it worked forever. And they decided that that wasn't very secure. So now what they do is they have these two codes, and you're going to send both of them to PayPal, and then PayPal will send you back a code that you can use for a one-time transaction. And that way, it's not a static code. So if people got, one of these API codes, they wouldn't have access to your PayPal account indefinitely. So that was the security update that they performed.
So now, real quick, I'm going to walk along here. Go back. Oh, but before you go into that,
Yep.
We are on version 3. Okay, so
Yes.
they have revised this like 3 times now since we started this, right?
Right.
More or less, yes.
More or less, yeah.
Okay, and this right here in the sample file is like a pretend invoice, right? That
Yes.
we're showing you, and then over here you're going to show all this, but this is all the things that go into us sending the invoice, and then I'm moving your face around, then collecting the information, all that kind of stuff, right? So,
Correct.
all right, cool. All right, now that we understand what that is, I will let you continue. I'm going to clear all my drawings. There we go. All right, you may continue.
It's a back and forth on whether or not it's better to push first and then explain, or explain first then push. But long story short, we have all these fields over here. As Richard just mentioned, these are going to be information that we send to PayPal, and this PayPal gives back to us. This one right here is the one that has the change, this access token request and access token result. Is the new part of the script, and it goes out through our script down here when we do this insert from URL. So this is the part that has changed. We're sending now using OAuth 2, and we are passing along. We now pass along that client ID and the client secret. Those are the two things that you saw that we had, mostly as X's over in the settings section.
All right, so let me ask a quick question. There's a question from David Angel, who's one of our longtime viewers. I want to thank everyone for being here. All right, so real quick, so how do they know, the question from David Angel, how do they know that they need to upgrade their code, right? Like, let me ask a question. In this case specifically, how do they know? And then in general in life, how might they be alert for this? And that's probably a harder question to answer, but let's do the easy one first.
In this case, we were alerted because PayPal notified us and said, hey, we're getting rid of this old version that you guys have been using. And because of that, you need to update it or you won't be able to use our API anymore. So that is how we found out. We got a notification. It was in our PayPal account. And as you mentioned, you also got a phone call about it. So PayPal kind of worked to let us know that they're getting rid of that old code. in general, you don't. APIs are notoriously bad about telling people that they've updated or changed, and you wake up one morning and it doesn't work, and you have to guess why not.
Yes, which is to be honest with you, when the APIs first came out years ago, that was my big stress sandwich. It was like, well, I mean, because in the world of FileMaker, if Claris FileMaker, the engineers at Claris break something, we kind of know what building they're in. And I've had actually customers there show up there banging on the windows trying to get someone to fix their shit, right? I haven't seen that happen in a while, but there is someone that's strictly speaking accountable, as opposed to this API that goes off to this, Maps API company that's on 3 different continents. And you don't know who's accountable to fix it, right? That kind of thing. So
Right.
in this case, in our specific case here, if they have a PayPal example that has both of those keys,
Yes.
is that the change from 2 to 3?
Yes, if they have both of the keys, then their file should be fine if they are sending both the client ID and the client secret off to PayPal.
And then can you show that? Was that in here? Was that in here?
So that is in these curl options right here. It is this line right here where you see that we are sending both the API client ID
There's
and the
one, and
API
there's
client
the other one.
secret.
So if you're doing both of those, you're probably got the most current compliant version that is available at the moment, right? So
Correct. Your code, if you are currently using this product and you are using and you have both of those in your solution, then you should be good to go as far as this security change is concerned. Once this process goes through, we have a couple common errors that you can get. The one that you're not connected to the internet. We included this one just because I happened to encounter it while I was building this and was like, that's probably the stupidest error you can get, but it makes sense. And so I'm going to make sure that if it happens, people know. This is specifically for our file because we have that demo mode where we put those X's in that field. This is going to swap them out for the actual value. So that's what this code here to here does. And then it's going to check whether or not we get a valid code, because it will tell us that it was invalid or not. And then if it's not likely, it succeeded, and we'll get our access token. And so if I hit this push to PayPal button, you'll see all of this, then went through. You'll see down here that the invoice, it went through, it was successful. This right here, that is all these dots right here, this was our access token. It came back, it was correct. The invoice went up. This was the everything that came back, and I'll go through this in just a moment. But for the time being, I just wanted to talk
Can you
about
walk us back? So did you actually send this to someone? Do you have an email? Did this pop up somewhere? Can they see this?
Yeah, they can see it in one of two ways. So this one, this button here, should open up the invoice. So this is the invoice right here that went out.
Okay.
So you see it sent to me at my RCC email address. So this is what the invoice looks like from the customer's perspective. This is on PayPal right now. I can bring up the email. It will take me a second to do that if you want me to bring that
No,
up.
that's fine. They're going to see an email well, actually, probably if you want to don't share, if you need to not share your screen while you do that, but you can bring up the email, that would be fine.
All
You
right,
want to
give me
quit sharing?
just one moment and I will do that right now.
Okay, so the thing is with this solution is that it shoots an email. Some of you bought things from us before, so you know about this. You say, "Hey, Richard, I want to buy I want to buy an amazing, my own personal copy of Claris, available for the unbelievable price of $99.95." So I type it into an invoice. I hit a button with your email. It shoots you an email. Then on the email, you can say "Pay now." You click the "Pay now." It goes to PayPal, and you pay on that right there, because what that does allows us to directly connect that order. There it is right here. Directly connect the order back to the FileMaker record, right?
This
Because
is
we
the
have
first one.
we have people send us money right now, and if you're one of those people, I'm not really complaining about you, but the finance people at this company really hate that. What happens is that out of the blue, they won't click the link here. They'll go to like a PayPal website somewhere. If you want to bring that up real quick, Hogle, you can see that. But if you go to this, just like generically PayPal, and here's the thing: what happens that they pay here, they like they'll like log in, sign in, and they'll just do a payment to RCC. The money goes to our account, and you're like, hey, that's great. But the problem is the finance people, it's not directly connected. Because if it's directly connected, go back to the FileMaker solution real quick. This is all inside baseball stuff. So if you do it through this, and then they get the invoice, and then they actually pay it, this record, this invoice record here will know with a smiley face that you paid the bill. Does that make sense? That's good. Okay.
So
But
this,
if you go ahead. Oh,
this
there we
get
go.
PayPal status will
Oh,
update.
yeah.
And if they have paid it, it will update and say paid and tell you how they paid it and what the amount was and all that.
Right.
Right now, it just says sent because it was emailed, but it wasn't paid by anyone as of now.
Right. It hasn't. So it was sent to them, but and this happens all the time. Ryan will sell some software. People just say yeah to get them off the phone, and then they never pay for it. That's what happens to salespeople. But what ends up happening is that if you go to PayPal directly and you pay it, that invoice that you got through the email and the corresponding website is directly back connected, linked to here through the API. So then when you make the payment, it comes into here automatically. This system, FileMaker, gets it. Once it's in FileMaker, because we can do scripts and stuff in FileMaker, and we're awesome, then we send an email and a Slack message out to the engineer. It says something like, says money cat. It's like a little cute kitty with little ears on it, right? Little ears that are on it. And it says so much money has come and you're allowed to work on this project. So it's this whole automation, right? So the goal is to encourage people to use that process that way, because if they just mail a check or they do other things, then the process gets slowed down. The finance people have to untangle it, which could add a couple, 2-3 days easily to the project, to the start of the project or whatever's going on, if that makes sense. So questions, David's typing. You will receive money before you send the invoice. No. So let me try this. Let me say this again. I guess I wasn't clear. So this is an invoice, a simulated invoice. You put in the information here. You tell it to send. There's a button, I think, right here that says send it out, right? And it sends it to PayPal. This is in one of those videos on the website that doesn't work. We'll get that fixed for you, okay? Okay. PayPal sends an email to the customer, okay? Customer pays it, right? Pays the invoice, and then I need to change colors. Hang on. Then because it pays, the process goes backwards. It goes back to PayPal, and then it goes over here to FileMaker and says, yes, it's paid, blah, 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 blah. It's all paid, okay? So the money's actually in your PayPal account, like your bank account, and your FileMaker system knows it's been paid, so then you are happy. Once again, the goal is to end with the happy face over here, right? Yes?
Okay, so the invoice gets sent out as we just discussed, and we have our status. Our status says sent. If you were paying close attention when we first sent it out, you'll notice that the status it said was draft. And that was just because as soon as you create the email, it doesn't send it immediately. It will send it once you ask it to send it, which is a separate PayPal protocol to send the invoice after it's been created, and so that's why the status said draft. And then
why don't you do, John, start another invoice and do it again. Sorry. What you just said made sense, but I guarantee it wasn't clear to everyone. Okay. He has to. One of the APIs is to take the invoice out of FileMaker right here and change the dollar amount to like $11 or something when you get that far, so we know it's a slightly different one.
Yeah,
right?
This is my fault. This is not going to be on the demo, but the ID number is actually back by 1, and this was during my testing. I messed it up, but in the actual product, it's not set up that way, and this should have been empty, and it is now.
Okay.
But yes, I will show you. I'll up it to $11.
He's going to press a button, and this push right here, I'm going to turn on my little drawing tool again. This push right here is going to fire it out of FileMaker to PayPal. It loads it into PayPal as a record in their database. That's all it does. Okay. There you go. It's all good.
I can type, yep. All right, so if I hit this push to PayPal button.
Okay, so now it's there. So it's done. It's a record that's there. That's why the button's invisible, because we don't want you to double stuff it, right? Double stuff Oreo cookies is okay. Double stuffing PayPal leads to bad juju. So let's not do that. Okay, yes?
Yes.
Cool. Keep going. So then we can, so the next thing is we can send it to them, right? We can send it out.
So the way that our scripts work, it's combined into one. It happens at the very end of this script. But when we get the status for the very first time, it says draft because it happens right after it gets created. If I just refresh my status here, it will say now that it has been sent. I'll show you in the script where that happens. So we've already talked about getting our tokens. This is what happens at the beginning. So now here's the invoice creation request. We're going to first set up our JSON here. And this is all of the information that we are passing to PayPal. This is our invoice number. And then this is the merchant info. This is all of your information for your PayPal account. So who you are, what the email address is, the business name, and then the billing info is who you are sending it to. So that's their name and their email. The items are going to be a list of all of your items that you put in. In this case, it was testing, and it was $11. And then the shipping info is their address. PayPal requires that you put in a shipping info even if you're selling a service. So bear that in mind. You do need a physical address if you're trying to use this API.
All right, we're doing good. Keep going.
So that gets sent. This is the part that actually creates it. So this line right here does what we just talked about. It creates the invoice in PayPal. It does not send it to the customer. It just exists there in PayPal.
Okay.
And then we get, this is where we set our global fields for our copies of our request and our responses. These are our common errors. So there's your ID error. This is your validation error. This is the stuff that I talked about where it requires you to give them a first name, last name, email, item name, quantity, and price. You got to fill all that information out. PayPal sometimes rejects them for other reasons. This one, if you're getting this, most commonly, the issue is that you have an amount that is less than $1. You cannot send an invoice through PayPal that is less than $1. But because they use the same error code for other things, we couldn't really list out everything that it could be, but that is the most common issue.
Yeah, most businesses don't have a 99-cent model anymore. Like you can't even go to like Taco Bell and get a burrito for 99 cents. It just doesn't exist. So
yeah. So then this is the ID. This is info. We're now capturing info that PayPal sent back to us, and we're setting fields to get that information. And this is all of the info that they sent us back that we're now capturing. And that's the end of this process. The invoice has now been created. So now down here, we have our process to actually send the invoice. So that is the second request. And it is pretty straightforward. The problem with this one, and it was difficult to display the first time we did it, is if PayPal successfully sends the invoice, it does not tell you anything. You get no response from PayPal at all if it was successful. If it was a failure, they'll tell you something about it, which is why these are blank, because they didn't tell us anything because it worked. Don't ask why they decided that was a great business model. That is what they decided they wanted to do. We don't have any control over that. And then we have given you a couple common failure responses. Most of them are the same, but like this one, for this business error, we did this most common one, which is the invoice has already been sent to the customer. PayPal has a separate process for resending an invoice that uses that reminder subject that we set in the settings. So if you've already sent an invoice to the customer, then it won't send it a second time. For the purposes of our demo, it is very difficult for you to do that unless you go in there and remove hides and things like that, but it is technically possible. And then you can give it the wrong ID, and those are the two most common things that happen. So,
by the way, real quick on this comment, could you do me a favor and hide the left and right panes up there, the top right corner, those two blue buttons? Turn both those off.
yeah, so let me get this out
The
of the
left
way.
and that one. So for those of you wondering about why the comments look like dog, because this is the way I comment big sections because I'm stupid. I have a big monitor. And so if you see these specific 3 lines like this, you knew Richard was here. Richard's been here, and I've tracked mud all over your house. I do apologize, but that you know that. And then like a normal developer who's sane and is well adjusted to life does the stuff like Hogel does here, like line number 199 top, little number, and little green thing. Because back when I first did this, there was no color coding. I don't believe on this, right? It wasn't color coded.
Correct. Yes.
And so if you couldn't really see things that were, like this green line wasn't green, it was a buried turd in the code. So I did these whole lines so you could break up sections and see what was going on.
The only way you could tell them apart was if they had this little hashtag in front of it. This little,
which is like, that's not good. Or the white space too. So questions from anyone? Rick Faza says, I'm listening. We use PayPal, just not through FileMaker. Yeah, it was a pain to get it going, but then it worked pretty well. Okay, so I'm not gonna volunteer any information on certain questions here, but let's just, unless someone asks a question. If you ask a question, I will answer, but people here have to ask the question. But this is basically, we rolled our own API. This was created back about 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I don't know. It's been a little while.
It was right before 16 came out because when it was first made, it didn't have the option to send curl responses, and we had to do it all through URLs, and then they rolled out. So it was right before 16.
Okay, so that goes back to like 2017. So that's how far this goes back. But this is current tech as of right now.
So the other things that we have set in here, this is the resend. It's probably the simplest one. We send the request. We still have to authorize, and then we just give it the ID, and it sends it. So this line right here, I'll highlight this for just a second. Here on line 88, we have a thing that says has value of the subject and checks if it's empty. So the field that it's talking about is this one here in the settings. It says reminder email subject. PayPal allows you to set your own if you want to, and you can make it whatever you want it to be. If you don't, they do have a default one. So if you leave this field blank, there will still be a subject on the email, but you can also set your own, and that's what this.
Okay, so there's a question here. So were you done with that? Okay, well, let's go back to this screen here real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so once again, invoice here. We press the button. It goes up to PayPal.
Yep.
The big P in the sky. PayPal then emails the customer, which is a C. Okay, emails the customer. The customer then clicks the link on the email, goes to a web page on PayPal, pays it, and then what happens is that we don't get push notifications on this. We have to repoll. Is that how we use this? Is that?
Yes, we use a robot.
A robot. You can, depending upon situations, have PayPal actively push notify your FileMaker server. It must be a FileMaker server with like a PHP or XML gateway enabled. But we wanted this to be functional without a FileMaker server. And so what we do is that what happens is PayPal sends the customer sees the email, the customer pays, PayPal gets the money. PayPal in this situation does not actively tell us it's been paid. However, we have this thing where we check the status of the invoice, right? We check it.
PayPal status.
Okay. We run this on a loop, so it finds all the open invoices and it loops through to find them. And every time it hits one of these, hey, PayPal, is this paid? ? And PayPal says yes or no, right? Yes or no, whatever it says. Okay. Makes sense. And so then we run this in a loop to get this information. Okay. So the reason so back in the day, so Peter Geens asked this question, but I want your opinion on it. Back in the day, we would take an invoice, we would create a email, we create a PDF of the invoice to the desktop of the computer, the temp folder or something. Then we would send an email of that invoice to the customer, and the customer would get this invoice that was not in any real way attached. Paper check, send us a paper check through the mail. They'd send us a stack of cash to the mail, which is kind of, you're not supposed to do that. Or they would make a credit card payment or something. But the whole goal to simplify your life through automation is that you want the payment to auto attach back to their invoice, right? Does that make sense? So, because if you send out a payment request and they pay, but it doesn't automatically attach the invoice, you've automatically injected humans, like living, breathing people, into the process. And those living, breathing people know the year is 2024 and that somehow you're wasting their time and they get grumpy about it. Okay. And so they want it to be automatically attached to the invoice. That way they don't have to run around and chase down. Well, and the best part is sometimes you have a customer who will pay the invoices for $1,000, say it's an invoice for $1,000, and they pay $947.28. I've had people do things like that. That happens all the time. They will arbitrarily make up a dollar amount and pay you. And if it was auto attached, then FileMaker would know the bill was for $1,000. They paid $984.23 or whatever, and there's this like net balance down here, right? But what happens, the finance people see $1,000 bill, they see a payment for $984. Sometimes it won't have any other identifying information with it, and they have no idea what it belongs to. So it starts this whole sleigh ride. So all I can tell you is if you're building the system, you want to encourage your customers to auto pay in a way that it they don't auto pay, but it pays in a way that it auto attaches back to the invoice. Does that make sense? I hope that's kind of mostly semi-clear. Yeah, David Angel, we run a SASE payment that runs a couple times an hour or whatever it is, every hour. I think it's every hour.
30 minutes.
Is that what it is? Every 30 minutes?
For PayPal invoices, it's 30 minutes, yeah.
Okay. Could you get a link? Could you get a link? So, say you load this up to PayPal. I changed colors now. Everyone stand by. Goes up to PayPal. PayPal has the invoice. Can you get a URL link back from PayPal? So some sort of HTTP : / blah 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 blah. You give that, and then you would have the link over here, and you could mail that link to a customer. Is that a doable scenario? I'm just asking the question out loud.
Yes. So if you'll see over here in this section that we've kind of abandoned on the far right, these URLs returned from PayPal, this section here. So this right here, so there's your sending link. This is your
Can you try that? Can you grab that and stick it
update.
in a browser? Would that work?
So this button right here does that. So this is the link. It is this right here. And we pull that link from these various URLs. I believe that the one that it actually uses is.
So this is Peter Gein's question. I'm going to answer this. So Peter Geins, you could use this, and then after you, so let me draw a picture here. So you could send it up to and Hogle, keep thinking, let me know when you're ready. Send it up to PayPal, get the link back. Then create a PDF of your own if you wanted to, and then put that link as a clickable button somehow on the PDF, shoot that to the customer as opposed to PayPal emailing the customer directly. Okay, does that make sense?
So you could get this link. So this would be the difference between when we talked about the status being draft versus sent. You could create the invoice that would make it a draft, and you could get this link back from PayPal, and then you could use it if you wanted to create your own invoice as you were describing.
Yeah, doing your own invoice is great. You still have to deal with making sure the email works, right? But making sure that the money is paid and it comes back correctly, right, to the right account is the trick. Because once again, I get to hear the finance people when they lose their because they're trying to figure out who paid $923.85 on an invoice that's literally $1,000 even, right? And they're over there. I have to bring them alcohol in the afternoon for them to get through the day. It's bad, right? So you want to automate this best you can.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's this one. Okay, so here it says pay review URL. That's this right here.
There you go. Payer
copy paste
view URL. That's good stuff. PayPal give you the invoice number ? Who sets the invoice number?
So, well, that depends. So PayPal has an internal email number or invoice number, which is this right here. A customer never sees that. So you send up an invoice number to PayPal, which is what we're sending here. You'll send that up and that'll assign it to the invoice, but then PayPal also has one that they keep hidden that nobody sees. So I guess the short answer is yes. So you can see this invoice number is the one that I sent out.
However, that was a bunch of bugs at that. If you try to resubmit your invoice number a second time, right?
PayPal will freak out at you and tell you that you did it wrong and the world's going to end.
Yeah. And then if you say you do this, you send it up, and we're like, oh, it's not $11. We're going to put a GI Joe action figure on there, and it's another $8. So now we're up to $19, right? So if I want to edit the invoice, what does that look like? Or do we do that? I'm pretty sure we tried not to do that, right?
So PayPal has a process to update the invoice. We have a button in here that says update invoice. I have not used it recently. I know that it notoriously had issues for us in the past. I think that we did fix them before we sent this out. We can try it live and find out, or we can...
okay. Does this link work if the bearer token has been invalidated, or is it a public link?
Which link?
I think he's talking...
the URL that they gave us down here, the view link?
Yeah, I think he's talking about that one. No, that stands.
That link stands.
Unless you close your account or something. Or you
delete it
cancel,
on PayPal.
you cancel the invoice. You can cancel the invoice. All right, here we go. But yeah, I think you're good on that end.
Let's see if that worked.
Hogle, nicely done. Always looking good. I like that. All right, well, gold star for... it's like, hey, can you hit a grand slam home run for us? We need 4 points at the bottom of the ninth.
I can certainly try, and that's the best answer I can give you. So there we go. And then you can cancel it from here. Internally, RCC has an auto cancellation policy after a certain number of days. That's not included here in the demo, but it is something that you could set up if you wanted to.
I think we kill it automatically after 30 days, right? Because if someone hasn't paid a bill after 30 days, then we're pretty much sure that they forgot or they lost the email or whatever. Because the last thing we want to do is people saving an invoice for 3 years, then paying 3 years later, and the product price has changed or the product doesn't exist or whatever, different. Right? Yeah. For example, David Angel, we start selling David Angel's specialty meme service where he puts memes together for you professionally. That service might not be available in 2025. We don't want people saving the invoice for years and then trying to buy him.
I have also been informed that if you would like more extra how-to videos on this, that is in our 2000 section, Advanced Integration PHP and REST in our video course.
All right, everyone, have a good one. We will see you later. Bye.
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 Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!